Hello and welcome. You're with the Economic Times, and my name is Ashutosh Sinha. Businesses are changing and gathering steam again as the economy starts getting back to normal, and won't everyone hope that should happen soon enough? The core sector economic data, which represents about 38% of the economy, has just confirmed that sentiment is changing, economic activity is returning. So all that is being confirmed by data. And what better than data to look at when we're talking in the context of today? Because it's an important time to discuss the success mantras for India's D2C story, brought to you by the Economic Times in association with Pickrr. And to discuss all of that, I have a stellar set of people and absolute brands that you've heard of, you've consumed some of their products and services. So they are joining me today. So let me welcome our experts today. Varga Bakshi from Shopify India, Manish Chaudhary, co-CEO, Wow Skin Science, Ankit Garg, co-founder and CEO at Wakefit, Pankaj Vermani, founder and CEO at Clover, Prabkiran Singh, founder and CEO of Bewkoof.com. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. But even before we begin, or even before I begin asking questions to you, let me first go across to Rithiman Majumdar to understand the big picture of the emerging opportunity for D2C brands, because we're going to be talking about the success mantras for India's D2C story. So let's hear from Rithiman about what he would have to say about what some of these success mantras could be.
First of all, thanks, Ashu, for inviting me in this amazing event, and I'm really glad to be part of this event, right? And to answer your question, right, I want to divide it into three parts, right? Logistics, ideally, before 3-4 years back, has been a very boring industry, right? People used to think it as an unilateral way of sending products from here and there or point A to B, right? But now, as you said, right, how D2C brands can use it as a way to enhance or create a differentiation, right? So I would like to divide it into under three sections, right? So the first is how smaller or even the bigger D2C brands can focus on the bigger term strategy, which is like focusing and creating the brands through the logistics, right? So the way they can do it is they can create their branding strategy through the logistics. Because remember, logistics is the only physical touch point between them and their customers and customers, which is us or maybe you who is shopping from the D2C websites platform, right? So what they can do is maybe create a branding tracking page, right? Branding SMS messages, branding WhatsApp messages. So what these kind of branding things will do is these will slowly and steadily for smaller brands. This will slowly and steadily start developing that brand image from the day one for smaller brands, and for the bigger brands, this will slowly and steadily uh, enhance the brand image in mind of the end customers, right? So that's very, very important, and that has to be done on the backbone of logistics companies, right? It's very, very critical. The second thing is engaging your customers with your communication, right? It has to be there. It's the high time of um, that the D2C companies, even if it's a small seller that has started 1 week back or 2 weeks back, the D2C companies or the D2C sellers has to adopt to this new thing, right? So there are multiple ways of communication, be it WhatsApp, SMSs, or email, right? Nowadays WhatsApp goes so very well, right? So you must have shopped on Amazon or any other platforms, right? The thing is, they hooked on their customers with these kind of images. So it's high time the smaller brands like D2C players, if they're small, and if they're bigger D2C players also, what they start doing is they start engaging their customers from the point the customers order the product. Third, and the most important factor, speed is the name of the game nowadays. With COVID behavioral changes, customer now expects the product to be as fast as the experience of Kirana stores, right? With the last lockdown, customers were so used to buying from the nearby Kirana stores, even if the lockdown was is over. Even now, also when they order from the D2C websites, customers want the product to be delivered within 1 to 2 days or 2 to 3 days at max, right? This experience they can get from big corporates like Amazon or maybe Flipkart, right? But how do D2C companies provide that, right? So there are various solutions, like even we at Pickrr do provide that, right? The plug and play localized warehousing solution, where you can just pay for whatever product you have in the localized warehouses in the multiple parts of the country, and from there your products will be delivered. So in summary, right, what I can say is uh, branding through logistics, right? As these are the one single physical touch point between your brand and your customer. Second thing is the engaging the customers through various type of communication. And third thing, super speed between the product when the product is dispatched and the product getting delivered. These are the three most critical points to change the whole experience that your end customer may feel. These are the things that this new age brand should start focusing on thinking about.
Okay, some of the things to keep in mind as you go about building your D2C brand. We're talking about the success mantras for that. Let me now get the experts in as well, more experts in, I should say, and ask them. So, my first question, and this one goes to Prabkiran Singh. Prabkiran, so how do D2C brands look at learning from the best practices of what has traditionally been seen as the popular brands?
Yeah. So I think what is at the core of any D2C brand is a product, right? And that is something that does not change with the change in channel. So the way we see the entire D2C industry is definitely there is a channel disruption that has happened. Nature of the internet, the way you interact with the consumer, the way this whole industry works on the delivery to home and the ability to customize experiences because you have unlimited shelf space. For example, Bewakoof can cater to a lot of expressions, limited expressions in fashion, which is only possible in an unlimited shelf space. It was never possible in retail. So the way we look at this industry, definitely at the core, it will always be about the product. On top of product, there could be experiences which were never possible in offline, but now due to the internet, the nature of the internet, now they are possible. So I think there is a lot to learn from the legacy players. The product will always remain at the core. The whole way of going about good quality, good design, good product is something definitely we are learning from the best who have been doing it over the years. Now we're building on that. We are building on those shoulders, taking that experience to the next level for the consumers, doing channel disruption, doing supply chain disruption, doing design disruption. Because the feedback loop is fast, you can create the designs better. In a better way. So I think definitely there's a lot to learn, and then there's definitely you can add more and create something more amazing for the end consumers.
Mhm. Manish, WOW's been around for quite a while. What are some of those learnings that you picked up from some of these brands? That's one. And where have you successfully executed the changes that you wanted? Because ultimately it boils down to the execution for the D2C brands.
So, our to be honest, we fight, and I think I told this last time to you, we fight 30,000 online brands. So I think it's very complex with every new brand coming up every day, because it's a hot category to be in. But I think what we have continued to learn and evolve is building and thinking about consumers and customers first, right? Maybe from the experience of why should we exist to how we can be meaningful to a consumer today, right? I think that's going to differentiate us. And I think the largest or the biggest learning for us is how do you give a better story to a consumer to buy you, right? There's so many options in our category, right? And I think digital has done at least engraved a path for us to tell us exactly what a consumer is searching for, right? And how you can be differentiated. So I think I would be very honest and say we've not yet mastered it, but at least we are on the path to understanding consumers a little bit better through the help of digital. But I think long term, it's I'm clear believer usage of data not only on where consumers are consuming your product, but also building products built with consumers is going to be something which is going to be a very exciting phase for young BPC brands like us. As I told you last time, it takes brands don't mushroom overnight. It takes decades to happen. Digital is just going to help us shorten that speed, right? But still, brands take a lot of time. Top of memory with consumers, brand building. That is something which now is a path where I urge a lot of D2C brands where we've done the communication. And now how do you embed yourself with so many options of consumers today? How do you really like clutter yourself out? I think that's going to be a challenging phase. But it's a very interesting and a phenomenal place for consumers to be in today, right? So many options, convenience sitting at home. Choose who's got a better story, who's got a better experience. I think it's going to be a very exciting decade for India Inc. as well as consumers.
Sure.
I hope we disrupt the large players who we've all grown up with. I think that's the end goal of all. For a meaning, I always say we are a united front for consumers. Though we fight in a very large pie, but I think these are some of our very key learnings being a digital company.
Okay, so that niche is something that everyone's trying to find. Each brand is trying to look for its niche and probably disrupt as well. Now, in all the D2C brands or across several D2C brands, one key thing would be manufacturing. So Ankit Garg, as you sit in your factory, I can see that in the background. Tell us what are some of the learnings that you've had? What have been the success mantras for you in this manufacturing experience and then building that brand for yourself and for the company, of course?
Sure. Thanks, Outsource, first of all, for inviting me. So I'll give you some of the very interesting facts. I think some of the folks sitting here, don't own the manufacturing part. I think mostly people have built brands, distribution channels, customer experience. We have one of the very few who have opened a factory. There are a lot of labels we handle here, and I think it's a very dirty sort of a job to kind of say in today's world, right? But I think very peculiar things about manufacturing. First thing is the moment you own manufacturing of the product, the innovation is what you control very closely. I'm not saying that people can't do innovation if they're not manufacturing, but I think I've seen it since you sit on top of the machines, top of those raw materials, on top of those processes to manufacture. I think you develop a lens of looking at the product very differently, which I guess if you're not owning manufacturing, you're not able to look at. That is number one. Second, I feel in shorter run, maybe if you look at the journey of the brands and divide it into three phases, let's say 0 to 1, 1 to 10, and 10 to 100. 10 to 100 is where you're trying to become HUL or ITC of the world. 0 to 1 is where every number 30,000 startup that is like Manish said. There are some 30,000. They're all in probably 0 to 1 phases, just trying to launch the product. They're seeing some amount of traction building up and something like that. But 1 to 10 is a very serious phase. Very few of them kind of jump to 1 to 10 and kind of build the right products, the right experiences, the right team and stuff like that, right? So I feel all of us till, let's say, 0 to 1 and 1 to 10, we can still go away by, getting rid of manufacturing, the margin not becoming a problem. We can just launch a few products and test out in the market. But the moment it becomes a larger journey to cater to, let's say, the moment you're trying to solve a Colgate competition or a Dettol competition, I think manufacturing provides you that ample space of margins, which you can definitely utilize in either brand building, so building the teams, or maybe the logistics functions or the wow experience. Yesterday, I was having some discussion and they mentioned about 18 minutes, delivery timelines for one of the companies. They're saying, order groceries and get 18 minutes delivery, right? How will you get that kind of money to kind of deliver to customers? I think some of those manufacturing benefits can definitely be passed on to this. And third is, of course, those, standard quality control system. I think you as the owner of the factory can create yourself to a level where you can talk about parts per million as defects, but as a vendor, you can't really do that. So I believe these 2-3 things, put together have really worked for Wakefit very, very well fitted. I think in order to just give you some odd comparison, I think we are able to sell at half the price of what people sell in the market, but the qualities are even better than what they sell. So most of it is getting contributed from manufacturing. That is number one. I think on the brand side, I think coming again to this 10 to 100 journey, Ashutosh, I feel I was just looking at the numbers of HUL, and I think I should point out, since so many founders are sitting, the market capitalization is about 5.5 lakh crore. Their PAT is about 25%. Imagine what that world is, right? I mean, where are we sitting? We're probably 0.01% of what these guys are, right? And imagine our EBITDA, the kind of team that we have, the kind of culture that we've created. I think we're very, very early to kind of say that, we have got the success mantra. I think it's very, very early for us to kind of even say that, we're successful. We know what we're doing. We know the magic. It's probably next 10 years or so, if all of us are able to continue that we're continuing. I think probably 10 years down the line, you can have a conversation. I can tell you there's a success mantra. But today, I would say, we just know how to do 1 to 10 or 0 to 1. Beyond that, It's an open box.
So HUL, in its current name, of course not, but as Hindustan Lever or whatever, it's going to complete 100 years shortly in India. So we're talking of that longer period where they have come to this 5.5 lakh crore market cap, and the kind of they're like a CEO factory, because the kind of CEOs they've given to India. Of course, that's a different thing. But when we speak in 10 years, the ball will have moved on and the opportunity will have changed. India will be a bigger economy. And
hopefully,
I guess we'll have to be very focused with that. Okay, so that also brings me to the issue of how do companies get their manufacturing fit and their product fit right as well. And I'd like to ask Pankaj Virmani about this. Pankaj, how do companies look at building that product which has the market fit again and again, because you can't just rely on one of them, so that the customer is actually hooked on to that brand? What are some of those key things to keep in mind?
So I think the whole conversation started on a very interesting note where PK said that D2C brands focus a lot on products, right? And I think so. If I were to talk to any of my traditional people in the industry, and we have a lot of them and they've done very well. You will listen a lot about distribution. You will listen a lot about X capabilities, Y capabilities, and then you very softly raise the concern that, sir, you haven't spoken about the product for almost 2 hours. We've had a chat about, right? I think that's where the shift has happened. For once, I think everybody's talking product, everybody's talking consumer problem identification and solution. I think in our category, it was all the more acute because our category is very, very unique, right? So today, even though we do loungewear, activewear, other categories as well, but bras and briefs is still almost 60% of our business, and we are a bit profitable as a e-commerce, because as Ankit rightly pointed, as closer you are to the product development, you can command a lot more margins. I think the biggest learning that we have had, and the reason why we went online to start with as the first step towards building the brand, was exactly this: that my category is super unique, right? Because different parts of the country will have different body types, right? It will have, so even in North, if you go from UP to Punjab, you'll start seeing body types changing completely. And so, the ABCD cups that come into play with the 32, 34, 36 creates a 40 size plethora, right? So just standard distribution where a one size fits all literally, will not work in our category. So our whole idea was that, and I keep laughing and discussing with the team that, only one interesting thing that the British has taught us, which we don't use, is divide and conquer, so let's try and do that. And I think that's exactly what we started doing. We said that let's make smaller batches of product, put it out there, understand the consumption patterns, and then kind of build on that and see how can we scale. I think that's what we tried to do. Our category required almost 15,000 SKU, minimum order quantity. It took us almost 1 year to crack that. We brought it out to 500. The moment we did that, we could manage the inventory problem as well. And thereon, big data kicked in, because once we had a sizable understanding of what was consumption was happening. So to answer your question, Ashutosh, I think we said that let's turn the problem around. Let's give everything to the end consumer, and let's understand what is making sense to her in what part of the country, at what time of the year, at what festive season, what is she liking. And I'll give you a very interesting anecdote here. So one thing that struck us was that in Gujarat during Garba time, we realized that, evolution is so high now that, while earlier it was saris and they were matching falls to the saris, now there is matching innerwear that people are going for, because it is a lot nicer and more comfortable for them, because it doesn't show as fabrics are getting thinner. So I think those are the kind of learnings that you take from the end consumer. You articulate them into problems, and then you define solutions, right? And data kind of helps you do that, so that's how it has worked for us so far. We're churning almost 150 new styles every month. Inventory holding is still the lowest in the industry, at least in my ecosystem. And I think it's all because of customer data and being absolutely on top of it at all points of time and never losing out on the ball.
Okay, so Varga, how does tech, or how has tech helped multiply the opportunity and give the D2C brands that big leap ahead? You probably can explain it best here.
Thanks for the question, Ashutosh. Yes, technology is simpler than before. Today, direct-to-consumer businesses do not need a CTO, to be honest. Anyone in the world today from their home can start a business. And that's because technology has become so simple. Look at, let's say, a Shopify. At the heart of our business is empowering anyone to start a business. And most of the businesses who start on our platform are direct-to-consumer businesses, selling through their website, selling through social media, and even selling through marketplaces sometimes. So it's much easier now, not just to start, but even to scale. Back in the day, you used to hear businesses needing to have servers in their offices. Today, there are hosted platforms across the world. Back in the day, you used to hear people hiring 50 plus team members in IT to take care of their technology requirements. Today, it's no more like that. Today, there are thousands of freelancers available who can, there's an on-demand economy of getting jobs done, immediately when you want them done without hiring people internally. I think technology has changed the way, and I think at the heart of it is the internet, which has changed the way distribution always worked. I think everybody agrees here that without the internet, we wouldn't have this opportunity for direct-to-consumer businesses to directly reach the customer, give them thousands of options in each of the categories, like Manish was saying. So yeah, technology, I think, is at the center of empowering D2C.
Okay, so again, this gets us back to the challenge of also distribution, a point that has been mentioned by some few. Varga, if I may just add to that question, how does that change and how does that help the smallest entrepreneur reach out to a bigger market, to a newer market that he may not have even explored earlier?
Yeah, I think we were chatting about this the other day, that it's a David versus Goliath, where you've got these small, really small players, and then you've got the Amazons and the Flipkarts and the big retailers, right? So earlier, you had to approach the big behemoths to get distribution because they owned most of the consumers. But today, it's possible for even the smallest of guy to do the right targeting, find their right customers over social media, over any place on the internet where their customers are hanging out. I think that is a massive differentiator. This was not there before. Obviously, distribution is tough for certain products. So what you really have to start with is who is your customer and where are they hanging out? It's always, sometimes it's a mix of online and offline. Sometimes it's only offline. Sometimes it's only online. So if you know who exactly your customer is, you get to understand where they're hanging out, and then you exactly, uh, just go about targeting that place. I'll stop there because there's some really good people on the call who have done distribution well.
In fact, exactly the question I want to ask some of the people, because Pankaj, if I may ask you, okay, before I come to you, Pankaj, just let me also remind the viewers, because there are quite a few who are logged in case you want to ask your question to the experts here, please feel free to put them in the Q&A tab. And of course, we'll take it to the right person, and hopefully your questions can be answered there. So we look forward to your questions, and please feel free to keep them coming. And we'd like to hear from you as well. So Pankaj, the distribution part, and can you tell us an anecdote or two, perhaps, where the average upcoming brand could slip up and something that they should be very wary of?
Right. I think it's always a game of playing to your strengths, right? Or at least building those strengths once if you don't have them in house. So I've seen a lot of folks, and I'm talking D2C journeys, right? Where where you started with an online journey and all of a sudden you said, oh, Omni is like the new in thing, right? So let's kind of just quickly do a lot of exclusive outlets. It's a different ballgame altogether. It's a different KPI, right? So it's literally like, you're a spinner and all of a sudden you're saying, chalo fast bowling bhi karte. That doesn't work. So I think the most important aspect is that every distribution has its own nuances. Today we do our own store, which is 55% of our business, which is Clover.com, which is a lot of, extreme amount of KPIs tracked every 1 hour. There is a marketplaces, which is an absolutely different nuance, both in terms of the products that are sold there versus, a lot of other ways in which the product is sold. Then there is exclusive outlets, exclusive brand outlets where Jimroffs and other thing come into play, and there it's a very different ballgame altogether. It's location, and all that jazz that you had. And then there's the large format stores, and then there is, MBOs. So each 5 of them have very different nuances altogether, right? So the way we did it was, when we were opening the EBOs, we got somebody who could actually train us in that direction. And we said, boss, so when you're coming as a core team member is going to take this to the next stage, but we don't know anything about it, right? So let's build it, together. So I think for you should not get blinded by multiple channels because omni-channel is cool. I don't think it works like that. Every channel is a very different ballgame. So I think work, play to your strengths. And once you have juiced out, at least, don't go horizontal too quickly. Once you've juiced out a certain channel, and you see that now next logical step for growth is happening, and people have proven here. I think Manish has proven here better than, most people out there of, how you could go from one channel to another and then, the next one and kind of, do a stepwise transition there.
So very interesting that you pointed out about that, because we have a question from that, and maybe Manish can answer this question. This is from Soumya Gangopadhyay, who says, is it necessary to be present on Amazon and marketplaces like that as a D2C brand? Manish, building your own brand vis-a-vis using the distribution might and the logistics might of an Amazon or Flipkart or whichever one it is.
So Ashutosh, we started off with the strength, I think early 2012. I think we were one of the few brands who were testing and trying to scale online. I call it the revolution of the internet at that time, because one is you're getting Indian consumers buying online for the first time. And, as we Indians, we love to paisa de or product lay, was something which was a challenging time for us to go through in that phase, where we saw, and I think I remember we all found us sitting down on a table and saying, why should Amazon's giving us a call, Flipkart's giving us a call. Sorry, Flipkart came a little longer later than that, but Amazon, because obviously searches were there and we were not there, and we were always like worried that they could come and cannibalize our own website. Today, building your own website is the most expensive platform to build. You like it or not. It's you're fighting algorithms. You're fighting bids of new age companies. Companies are getting funded left, right, center today. Obviously, the bids online, inventory, etc., all are off the roof. If you really ask me, when do you really like become a brand, or the potential of becoming a brand is when you sell on all marketplaces also, and equally on your store, as well as even offline. But the journey starts, and anybody punting into the D2C site should have a hybrid kind of model of being available across on your platform as well as on marketplaces, because it does have a rippling effect on your conversions. There would be consumers who will trust an Amazon and Flipkart more than your website, more on delivery. I think we're still not getting out of that, but I'm seeing that over the years, Indian consumers are getting very matured now, right? Because Amazon, Flipkart have created that benchmark. There's a lot of transparency today on pre and post consumer transaction. But I continue to believe that Amazon and Flipkart will come and balance your P&L, at least at an early stage of a company. As we all understand, we have all juiced what we could, and we're all grinding in to see how much more we can squeeze out of each platform. But at least I continue to urge Amazon and Flipkart is a big stage of area for any brand to at least showcase their presence. So big believer that it has to be taken very seriously.
Okay, and
I'll actually add on to that if that's
sure,
okay.
sure.
So if you're a small player, then having a proof of concept on Amazon, Flipkart definitely goes a long way. So you understand that if people are actually buying the kind of product that you're selling. If you're someone who's getting to scale, then you are at a threat of Amazon or a Flipkart starting their own brand, replicating your products, because that's what they have always done. So yeah, I'll just sum it that way.
But just coming back again, and I think the biggest area, if funds and metrics are in place, is scale is on your own website. I think you can it's a complete different beast, because your conversions, your data inputs, that's a place for scale.
Okay, so just to add to what Soumya's point, I mean, what she wants as an answer, I think, so we do 55% of business from our own site, right? But I think if you're absolutely product led, then why not sell everywhere? So as Manish rightly pointed out. But if you're completely experience led, if there is something which is very experiential, so marketplaces may not be able to control that experience, right? So I think that could be one litmus that could be used as well.
Correct. And if you are a Wakefit, you might also have to consider, Ankit, the offline part of it. So the question from Anil Rajpal, and this one comes out while we were discussing, what's the plan for offline distribution, as this is going to be a big share of the pie? So how have you managed that and handled that? Because this is a category where online, well, you have to have a presence, but offline also matters so much.
Yep. I think we are exactly opposite of what people expected. In fact, when I started Wakefit with mattresses, I didn't know what I can do. I mean, what Wakefit could do. I was surprised when my first mattress got sold. I was like, wow, somebody bought a mattress. It was the latest. Some foreigners come in Jaipur, and then I got to know, hey, this guy is already used to Amazon. That's why he bought it. Right? So I think we work in a very, very different category. Like mattresses is something, I think everybody is very different in this group, by the way. But mattresses is something I've seen personally that a lot of people, until they touch them, sleep on them, sit on them, kind of probably don't buy them at least. Fortunately, unfortunately, it has worked just fine for us. I think we just in mattresses have been able to, this year we are looking at clocking about 500 crores revenue by selling mattresses, 100% online, not even a single store is there. We're selling it offline. So I think it also goes into the broader strategy of the brand. I feel omni-channel, offline stores, FOCO stores, franchising and all that. I think it's very peculiar to how you want to design your own business. If you have a long-term conviction, for example, Amazon could have gone live with thousands of stores across the world, right? but they didn't choose to. They still are scaling it online, and they're still able to, make enough dents in the market. So it's their long-term bet, it's long-term strategy. I believe every company or every a D2C brand at least would have their own ways to kind of create their modes in the long term. I think if you look at it from a long-term perspective, it is very, very agnostic to how you would like to design it. Short time, I would say online is a very great answer. You can do 0 to 1 journey, 1 to 10 journey very easily sitting at your home. You just Excel upload and your life, right? So I think it's agnostic to how people would like to do it.
Kiran, when you went about building the brand, what was driving it? Because the very name, when you begin with the name, it's a catchy one, but you had to have something looking ahead. What was that metric, and what was some of the, of course, the metrics don't change. You ultimately have to have your visitors, your experience and all that. But what was driving it for you?
Yeah, multiple things. So we were one of the players to start early in the game. Back then, there was no D2C. We used to call it internet brand back in 2012. And when we started, as I said, for us, the core has been always about the product. What we saw, what was missing in India was some brand which is all about fun and expression. And this was an insight that happened simultaneously in many parts of the world. Like Miniso was started in China in 2012, again, a brand around fun and expressive merchandise. Obviously, their forte is more into home products. In India, we built it around fashion, and our forte is more around the fashion products. So that was one which we found was a gap in the market. Most of the brands in India were just about being inspirational. The playbook in fashion was have a name which just sounded very aspirational, from the Van Heusens to the Alan Solis of the world. All of these are Indian brands with a foreign imagery, and that's what Indians bought into. But we felt that now the time has changed. People are going to go for something which is relatable. People are going to go for something which has a purpose. For us, our purpose is adding lightheartedness to life. I thought the times are changing. The second big thing that worked for us was back then we used to call it there's no brand for the young people. Right now, everyone is focused on the Gen Z, the millennial. There are a lot of fascinating names around that, and they'll keep on changing with time. For us, it was a gap in the market, no brand position on the young people, because the belief was once people start earning, people in their 30s, back then only they had disposable income. I think back then people into 20s did not have disposable income. So these were some of our early entry where we got the product right, where we got the product market gap right. The second thing that really happened in our favor and was a conscious choice we made back then was focusing majorly on our own channel. Till today, 90% of our sale happens on our own platform. So not that we are not a believer on distribution. We believe that every product company, every good brand should be ubiquitous. And I think in my mind, there's no debate around should it be our own portal or should it be third party, should it be online, offline. I think if you're a product company and one of the greatest product company on planet is Apple or something like Disney, where their product is available wherever it's possible. So I think there's a lot of debate. We ourselves are carving out an industry for ourselves called D2C. And then I think somewhere getting lost in it. But I think at the end of the day, you're crafting a good product for consumer, and every possible distribution way you should reach out. But for us, there were reasons back then. We decided we'll stick to our own platform, and we bootstrapped and the kind of growth we got and the kind of limited resources we had. So there was just enough resources to cater the phenomenal demand that we're getting on our own portal. And just doing our own portal, we crossed 300 crores in sale. And now beyond that, even we are looking at adding to the distribution. And then taking a step back for the question that you asked, I think every brand needs to solve for some of these things. First of all is awareness. So on digital platform, as we know, everyone spoke about in the 0 to 1 journey, with very little capital, you can start your business. Now you could do Facebook ads, Google ads, and use organic content strategies on social media, which we did. We have a following of 6.1 million followers on social media. So through that, we got awareness. Then there is engagement, then there's transaction, and then there is the emotional connect, which Manish said now every brand is trying to solve for. When you're competing with 30,000 people, I think the ones that are going to win, because there's going to be a lot of product proposition overlap, are the brands which are now trying to build the connect. And you will see that even the smallest of brands, D2C brands are hiring celebrities, are coming out with creative campaigns just to build that emotional connect with the consumers. So I think all across the journey, we have been solving for these things only: awareness, engagement, getting the transactions at lower cost, and then finally now focusing on how to build that connect, and the connect could be based on your story, on your purpose, how you can fascinate the consumers. I think that has been a broader playbook.
Okay. This is a question I wanted to ask Manish, and Devesh Raghav is kind of almost stolen the words from my mouth, as they say it. Manish, the question Devesh is asking is it advisable to outsource customer services during the early or growing stages of D2C business? It's the experience that you're giving to the customer. Can that be outsourced early enough?
Ashutosh, till date, we have it in-house. That is something which we can't part away with. Is, I think the first thing is also data, right? I think that is something which is one of our most expensive PLAs in our books, but it pays off over time. Continue to build it in-house. Was just speaking about it a couple of days back, more to make it 2x. I think that is something which has to be built with great systems, processes, leaders. That is something what will differentiate you from the rest. Just as an example, 2015, when we started selling hair care, there was no Indian beauty company giving a after-sales service to a consumer, right? Until date, we'll give you a call even after you buy it and ask you what you felt about it, right? And that, I think, really like fascinated a lot whenever we did our diligences, our consumer surveys, committees. That was one big place of our word of mouth through other consumers that, there's an Indian company today caring about you. I mean, you only think about after sales service in electronics, right? And we raise the bar even in personal care. And that is something which we want to continue to build. Today, we're looking at how do you blend it in both the ways. One is as a profit center as well as a customer experience. That is something which it's all a part of brand building. It hurts you, but long-term perseverance into it, I think, will pay off in a very large way.
Okay. Bhargav, that's the experience part of it. But if you were to probably explain it to a smaller brand from any part of the country, and when I say any part of the country, I mean the non-urban part of the country. So just take the 12, 15 metros or 20 cities out of the reckoning and then address that. What are some of those key pillars that smaller brands need to, or the ambitious brands need to consider when building their D2C brand?
That's a great question. I would say story. A story goes a long way, and stories inspire people. So if your product has a story, then you will find an audience for it. If you are a small retailer or a very small player or someone who's just started a business, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to get your first 100 customers. So I think one needs to be very clear around why they do what they do on an everyday basis. What's the mission and vision of this particular brand? And if you remove the top 20 cities, it becomes important to also play on quality and pricing to a large extent, because our non-urban audience is a price sensitive, value conscious audience. So hitting the pricing right also will have to do its part, and obviously quality of the products too. So it's a mix of product, pricing, and a story that would help win the Bharat audience, if you may.
Bharat audience, a very important point that you've mentioned, and I'll come to that, about the larger issue of how smaller towns are going about with the entrepreneurship, streak of entrepreneurship across smaller cities in India. That's important as well. Ankit, how did you resolve that part of it? Getting, the first 100 or maybe even more. You were surprised with the first one. Did the second one surprise, and maybe the 100th? Did that surprise you when you got your first orders?
Yeah, I think so. I think most of us, I think all of us probably started somewhere in between let's say 5 years ago from today, or more or less around that time. I think Amazon and Flipkart probably solved that problem already for us. I think one of the questions was also around, shall we launch it on Amazon first and see? We were selling for the first 2 years only on Amazon and Flipkart. I think we were able to get enough number of orders to kind of get hooked for those periods and feeling wow about it. But coming to, let's say, tier 2 towns, especially when we launched our own website, when I think in 2016, late 2016, we launched this product. I think Google, Facebook, YouTube are very, very simple mediums to kind of reach out to customers and kind of sell your products in even tier 2 towns or tier 3 towns. So now that we have grown for the last 5-6 years, we trace one metric for sure. That is like how many tier 2 or tier 3 towns, let's say, except tier 1 towns, is the penetration of the brand. And we are very, very happy to see that this month of October, we are able to hit 52% orders coming from non-tier 1 towns, which is an amazing metric to follow, which means like depth is already there. So if the story of the product, as Vargav says, if the PNL or the truth that you're trying to sell or the niche that you've built it, if you're able to call out very clearly, I believe your most loyal customers, the customers who are going to value you much more than a tier 1 customer, or those who are going to stick with you for a longer period of time, are those tier 2 customers or tier 3 town customers. This is what we have clearly seen, that somebody sitting out of Agra, if places an order and gets a good experience, they end up talking much more in the whole region compared to, like, we live in Bangalore, we live in a tiny apartment, and we don't talk to the person sitting above down, or let's say just opposite to our house. But if you look at my father, he would spend almost entirely talking to so many people. But if he has a good experience, the word of mouth flies like crazy. So I think we should all, as a D2C brand, should definitely be aspiring towards finding those loyal customer sets. And this has definitely worked in favor for us. Like, our overall marketing cost now at this point in time has come down to about 7% of the revenue, which is a phenomenal metric to achieve. And this has all happened because we have made one metric to be very, very, very closely followed, that how many more tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 town customers are coming to the big field database.
Okay, so that offline, if I may use that word of mouth, if I were to treat it as offline, that works beautifully. Pankaj Virmani, in your category, this kind of word of mouth, how has it worked? And what is the importance you will attribute to this kind of marketing in addition to the traditional way of driving marketing function?
So it is actually pretty goosebumpy, right? I mean, I think it's this whole conversation. So we started with the whole thesis, right? My father used to be a lingerie seller, and my teachers told my father, send him to IIT, what is he doing here? I went to IIT, I'm a lingerie seller again. So he had the last laugh, right? So I think this entire journey, I mean, the whole thesis of starting the brand was exactly this, that we could see that in tier 2, tier 3 towns, the product reach wasn't there. And people talk about customer experience and privacy, but that's, I think, overrated in my category, because every girl has that one uncle she's become comfortable with and she can talk about, right? About her sizes. That's fine. But I think the real challenge was the product itself. And our whole thesis was that, can you, penetrate beyond the metros where the large format stores, the trial rooms, entire excitement is already there, right? Can you go beyond these and kind of, build the same experience for the end consumer? Online, of course, will bring certain challenges, but the whole agenda was just that. And I'm very happy to share, I think it's kind of resonates with what Ankit had mentioned. So 63% of our business is all tier 2, tier 3. We take tremendous amount of pride in that. And this number pre-pandemic was 50, post-pandemic it is 63, right? So it's the Bharat which is kind of coming, to kind of, the baton gets passed, and we've doubled down on it. And we realized very early in the game, this is actually a very interesting, again, anecdote. We realized very early in the days that our category has a lot more word of mouth, right? Because girls talk to each other and they want to share if there's something good. It works with BPC, it works with, lingerie and BPC kind of work very closely with each other. So, so there are traditional store, there'll always be a lingerie store which will also have a cosmetic section, right? That's how traditionally it works. So the way we saw it was that, there's a lot of word of mouth happening. We said, is there a way to empower people to kind of do this word of mouth and monetize it, right? So we launched something which was the Clover partnership program. And we said that, if you're a girl who likes Clover, then, we'll send you a kit and, just make a subdomain for you. And you start selling through that, we'll give you 50% of revenue share. And your friend also gets something in addition so that she's enticed to buy. But the agenda will be that you'll have to talk to people and train them in fitting and are you improving their life in some ways? That has to be the agenda, and we try to train these people a lot. This is like a raging success for us right now. We have stories where there are women who have just by selling Clover to their core friends group. Women are buying Honda Cities for their husbands and are buying laptops for their kids, and they are single mothers who are who are basically doing tuition and kind of selling Clover. So I think word of mouth in itself is an extremely powerful thing, but I think more than that, the awareness and the education is a lot more important in our category. And if there's a way for you to empower people to do that, and in the process take a share of whatever we make, I think it's a very gratifying thing for us, at least as a brand, which stands for joy, which stands for happiness to be delivered. I think we are very happy that something like that has happened. So I think anecdotally that's interesting.
I'll have to say what Pankaj is talking about is so in tune with what social commerce is coming up to be, where people want to buy from people who they trust, because websites don't have faces, but when you're interacting with people that in everyday life, and when they are selling products to you, it goes a long way. So social commerce is evolving, and that's
my investors keep reminding me that you should have rebranded it properly and gotten a better multiple.
Right.
Okay. Manish, in the early days, so when you started that 2012 period, there wasn't an Amazon around. There was Flipkart, of course, but it wasn't the rage that they are. It didn't have the dominance. Flipkart didn't have the dominance that it currently has. So what was that mantra for you? Was it just that after sales service, as you explained in another context?
See, Flipkart came much later, at least in our category. But I think those days, the CPAs, conversions, we were acquiring consumers as good as free on Facebook or Google. I wish I can go back to those old days. Or I would have pushed it more harder from where it was. But anyways, you never regret, because anything which goes fast up comes down quickly down too. So we always like to do it correctly. But if you really ask me, I think we had a lot more time storytelling, a lot more time to spend with consumers, what the product was. But today how things have changed, algorithms have changed. I think that experience is getting shorter, at least on our first communication. Then there are so many mediums which used to work, don't work today. I'm a strong believer what works yesterday, what was working yesterday is not going to work tomorrow. So how do you build things around being agile? I think those are some big learnings, if you ask me, over the last 7-8 years, and it continues to get tougher. I think the main job of at least marketing online, advertisers, platforms are just going to make it more tougher for you to sell, because they want more money out of you, and that is going to be one big challenge. But if you got the flow, if you understand, nobody can read hidden algorithms, but if you get a slight understanding what changes pretty fast, that is something which is interesting. But wish we had pumped a little bit more up in those days, but no regrets. We are marathon runners. We're here to create something long term. I think all the brands what we are creating are going to stay here for long. I like the way how you started off saying HUL is going to be 100 years. I think everybody should look at all of us, seeing how HUL may be Himalayas of the world, Dabas of the world, Imamis of the world, at least in our category, 5 to 10 years into their inception, and just deploy the speed of the internet on top of that. And that is something as what the outside world should look at, the possibilities which can be created this decade. So
okay, Prabkiran, since Manish very interestingly spoke about this, how do you get the consumers to emote with your brand? Ultimately, that's what gets them that loyalty, gets you that loyalty. And I'd add a question to that, which has come from Praveen Kumar. This is an interesting one. As we see this is what Praveen Kumar writes, as we see 0% commission marketplaces coming up on like Meesho and Shopee, how profitable is it to run own websites by advertising and spending to get orders?
Yeah, so I'll first touch the first point, how to emote with consumers. I think this is one piece which leave a D2C brand. I think any company, any brand has to do that, right? And then it comes to it comes down to a solution which everyone has followed some unique ways. I think if there was one particular way, then everyone would have followed it, and then it would have become really commoditized. That emotion would itself been commoditized, and no one would have related to it. So I think every company is really solving that in their own unique ways. And obviously, D2C brands don't come with the budget of ad spends where they can do a very effective storytelling early on. And then every company tries to stay close to their purpose. Like for us, our purpose was always adding lightheartedness to life. And now we did it through products which were expressive and add that lightheartedness to people's life. But then also we had a very elaborate content strategy where we had a big in-house team of content creators. The strategy was very similar to how Amul did it over the years. Anything happens in India, Amul has a strategy where they would have that content out there on the hoardings in newspaper, very contemporary and very quirky, and they build that property over the years. So we took that as an inspiration, but we saw that hey, internet is a great medium where the distribution cost is zero right now, and on social media, rather than doing it once a month like Amul, we can do it 10 times a day. So if a cricket match is going on, during the match itself, we'll be creating real-time content and putting it out on social media. So that really resonated with people. It became a brand which was beyond just transaction, beyond just commerce. I think the content was very early in sight. Then this is a thing that we keep asking ourselves: how do we connect with the consumer? And that can have multiple solutions. Like one solution that we came out was, can we involve them in the design process itself? So we came out with a feature on our main portals to have 500,000 people on daily basis. And any product that we want to launch, we don't launch, we first put it out for voting. So that we pick up the best products which have done well on voting, helping us removing the inventory risk. So that was the original intent, but then it became a feature in itself where people started feeling part of the process. And then we covered the entire customer experience journey. So for example, if you come on the portal, you vote for a certain design, and if you have voted yes, and let's say after 1 month, the design is going live, the product is getting launched, so you will get a notification and a good communication, automated communication that the design you voted for is going live. So that became a point of connect. Before this, never in retail, in our industry, had anyone involved people in that entire process of the product design itself. The third real piece is, I think, we could do things, we could bring things to market which were in trend, and we were always the fastest to do it. And Ankit mentioned, like, very rarely did any of the brands do pick up the headache of manufacturing, and there's so many benefits associated with it. So we are one of the company which till last year was doing 100% manufacturing in-house. And that what it enabled us was being very agile and being the quickest to market. So if we are in the game of expression, if anything is viral in the country, we can launch it within 4 days. So it could be a dialogue from the movie, it could be something trending on Twitter. Our speed to market is just 4 days, and that's something that you can only achieve making sure the quality is intact when you have your own manufacturing. So for us, it has been a mix of that overall story of the brand, how to use things beyond commerce, not make but make it just transactional with the consumers, and then at every step of the brand building, how can you involve your consumers? So these have been the things that have worked for us.
Okay, so Ankit, in a manufacturing situation, this changes dramatically, I would like to believe, because the whole process has to be gone through in the manufacturing. So there's a question from Velanki Sriharsha, and the question says, software products have the advantage of getting and updating basis feedback and shipping products faster. How do D2C companies do, especially for physical products? This question straight to you, Ankit.
So from manufacturing perspective, I guess.
Yeah.
So I think, in fact, this is a good platform probably to just speak about it. So we were thinking of, what are the different modes that the company can build over the long period of time that, we should be able to enjoy building it. Let's say we start pumping in 3 years for that. So one of the unique things that, we picked up in the last 6 months is that we're going to create an experience that's going to talk about 100 days no questions asked, written policy for furniture. Imagine, something of this sort being built when you're saying, you're allowing your customers to kind of use the product for 100 days. And if they just have to call you or probably email you saying that can you please return it? And we just come and, pick up the product and refund the full money, right? So brands are going, or at least we are trying to go into that level that, how we can make this as a fashion. Like furniture probably can become a fashion. Can this become a mode that can you design your whole supply chain, production, manufacturing in so agile manner that every 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, like a fashion, you can change your furniture. Like can this be something very, very large? So I would like to believe that it is possible. If you own the entire supply chain, at least you have a very strong control on the supply chain. I think we at CleanFit are working very, very strongly at kind of creating modules. Like it's a very very technical way of getting into manufacturing, but we're trying to. It's like if you have to make a bed, assume there are 20 components which have to go together to make a bed. How do you create an engine that all those components of 20 can create 100 furniture? Can you design your product like that? Can you engineer your product like the same component can be used in 10 different ways? You solve your inventory issues, you solve your replacement issues, you solve a lot of issues. So I think this manufacturing kind of enables you probably sometimes much more. And I can also be biased. I'll not say that I'm not biased. Since I own manufacturing, I've lived it. In fact, today itself, I'm sitting in factory. This is my actually office. So I spent almost 7-8 years sitting in this factory. So probably I'm a little biased towards looking manufacturing from this angle. But I'm clearly seeing that you can think of building modes just by owning manufacturing, upgrading lifestyles, giving those policies which are clear mode for you in the market. I think this all get enabled through probably manufacturing for us.
Bhargav, when you or when Shopify, as Shopify, you're trying to help out companies and companies reach out to you for working with you, what are the kind of places, we spoke about the kind of places, the depth that some of the companies, some of the brands here have achieved. What are the kind of places you get customers in? Can you give some examples maybe? And the kind of questions they ask as well, the ambitions that they carry.
All right. So Shopify's customer base is in two segments, right? One are existing entrepreneurs who are looking to bring their business online. And there are aspirational entrepreneurs who are looking to start. So we see a massive number of such people coming through organic searches. People are searching sell online on Google, and Shopify is one of the first search results that come in. And then they reach out to us, and then it's a DIY platform, do it yourself. So anyone can come sign up for a trial version, design their website in an hour, and get started. It's not difficult, and it's also not always very expensive. So it's easy to get started, but it's expensive sometimes to really scale. So the kind of questions that we get mostly is, how much would it cost us, or what are the kind of products that will actually sell? What pricing should we sell our products for, and which markets should we be selling it in? Should we be selling internationally? I think these are common questions that we've been seeing. Also, I would like to touch upon one of the questions that came from the audience around Meesho and Shopee and the concept of reselling. I think it's not a bad concept at all for someone who's looking to be an entrepreneur, doesn't know what product they are looking to sell. So Meesho allows someone to resell products and to their own friend circle, right? Or to their own WhatsApp groups. I think that anything that allows or fosters entrepreneurship should be encouraged in our country. So that's where I would like to leave that.
And if you could probably give an idea of what kinds of places are these guys coming from, even beyond the state capitals, let's say northeast, extreme northeast of India, Itanagar.
We see a lot of people who want to start businesses on Shopify coming from the top 12 metro cities in India.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
where we see our base today.
So that is for Shopify, but the experience or the anecdotes that some of the brands mentioned is beyond the large cities that we were talking about, the 12 large cities that Bhargav mentioned. So my larger question then, because we referred to it earlier as well, if you just look at the categories, financial services, and particularly I'm talking of the payment space, self-service option for buying across categories, music, look at the content creators, look at the creators of music, and something that I can't tire of talking, cricket talent. Just about everything is getting a dash of democratization. Is entrepreneurship, Manish, since you've been around possibly the longest among as entrepreneur, almost, I haven't asked each one, but I'm just guessing. Would you say that this democratization will only increase the opportunities for, and more D2C brands, the 30,000 that you referred, will get to see far more numbers in the nearer future?
Continue to back that this is going to be a decade of D2C founders. What you're going to see a lot of passion. You're going to see a lot of creativity. I think this decade is going to be India's and the Indian founders. Strong believer in that. I think that path is. I think that boat is sailed now. It's going to be. It's going to be Indian consumers, Indian founders, democracy, or whatever you call it. But it's the journey has begun.
Okay, Pankaj Virmani, you had a big smile on your face. Would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I think democracy by definition is equal opportunity, right? And equal opportunity presents may the better one win, right? So all of a sudden, you could be in a small town, with a guy with a laptop can once again actually fight a big war. So I think it's a very interesting time. Only thing is, I think it'll also bring in a lot of unfortunate delusion, right? Because, for example, people just, so for example, celebration of fundraise, I think it's a phenomenal thing to happen, right? So it's a brilliant thing because that is a great milestone. But whenever I talk to like a new entrepreneur, I'm trying to understand why is he doing what he's doing. After like fourth or fifth question, it'll come out to be, then I'll raise funds. And I say, why? When do you want to raise funds? So I think the celebration of getting money for the ammunition to fight a war versus actually winning a war are two different things. So I think we'll have to celebrate a lot more stories, of business successes, which are getting created every day. And media, I'm sure is going to help a lot in that, in bringing out stories which are frugal, which have done a great job. So I think all sorts of stories will have to come out, where the founders also start feeling a lot more excitement in terms of keeping the fundamentals in place, right? I think the damage will be a lot lesser. Learning cycles will be shorter, is all I'm trying to say.
Just to
actually,
add,
please go ahead.
I feel all these Davas, HUL, just ITZ and all that, they all are making 20% plus EBITDA. I guess I don't think it's reasonable at all. So eventually all of this entrepreneurship is going to bring down everything at parity, probably what is really sustainable. I mean, if you look at global brands, look at Walmart, look at Amazon, look at bigger companies out, look at IKEA. I don't think anybody enjoys more than 10%. I think it kind of tells you that the space is wide open. A lot of people are making a lot of money.
I think Ankit wants to join, become a BPC player soon.
Yeah, pretty much similar story.
And I'm the only guy who doesn't have my own manufacturing, so I'm excluded. I'm excluded from this party.
Ankit to me sounds a lot like Jeff Bezos, where he's like, your profit is my opportunity. So he's really living into that.
Yeah, as long as you can build that global platform and the distribution might.
True. As I said, I think journey from here to what big companies is probably an uncharted territory for all of us. It'll be very, very exciting to see in us next 5 to 10 years. We all will pan out how these channels, distributions, experiences will really work in favor of us. Something very, very exciting to look forward.
Okay, so there are more questions coming, quite a few questions coming in today, and this one's for Bhargav, and there's a question Neeraj Kathuria is asking, which could be the question from really any entrepreneur since you mentioned the 12 large cities of India, we'll try and focus there. We want to sell our products, or any of these entrepreneurs who want to sell their products beyond India, and Manish does that, and I'm sure some of the others also do that. When will it be possible, or how easy is it for them once they've done the more than just the proof of concept, and they're also selling some in the local markets?
Right. Thanks for your question, Neeraj. We recently launched a product called Shopify Markets that allows entrepreneurs to sell their products in different countries. You should definitely check that out. I agree that you should probably be exploring selling products in different prices to different countries, and not just pricing. Try and have a different experience as well. If you look at the Starbucks website in Japan versus the Starbucks website in US, they're so different from each other, and the experience is so localized to that particular region. So have different experiences, and all of this is definitely possible on Shopify.
Okay, Prabkiran, so this also very interestingly, this raises the issue of mass customization. Because of your presence and very strong presence online, is that one of the large opportunities so that the customer experience becomes exactly what he or she is looking for?
Definitely. I think we were always a business which was built on expression, and expressions are always built on people's identity and the fact that they're proud of it and they want to express it out. So for us also, the first leg of the problem solving was how, as a brand, taking care of the quality, taking care of the number of SKUs, since expressions are of large variety. How do we solve for that? For us also, the second problem that we are now looking to solve in the next decade, which we believe is a very large opportunity, is customization. And just next month, this is something that we'll be enabling on each and every lifestyle product. Is a very proven market, not just in lifestyle, but you will see that most of the companies are now giving an attention to that. Even a company like Apple is now providing customization. You can get your own name printed on the AirPod you're buying. So from that perspective, that exists across each and every industry. For us, that is going to be a big legroom for growth, and we are focusing on it and launching it just next month.
Okay, Manish, mass customization sounds too fancy for someone like you, or is it the way ahead to keep the customer engaged and stuck to you?
I want to apologize, but I think customization business is tough to scale. We are actually launching a sub-brand customizable solution, but we're making it easy for a consumer to buy it. Because once you get into customization, personalization, kinds of hits you out on scale. Any Indian company who does it, or anybody who does it, I think Bharat Ratna should be given out, being honest about it. We have burnt our fingers on it. Might be at our end, but at our end, keep it as simple for a consumer. That is something to understand, at least, is something which we've continued to build on. But we are also trying to make it as customizable to a consumer, more intense engagement with them, solving their problems a little bit more granular. That's the way out. I think that's the next leg, but it's a tough one if you ask me. But
okay,
as a D2C, we love to keep experimenting and failing along the way, if at all we do fail.
Yeah, so fighting the more established brands perhaps is more important, and getting something from the market share perhaps more important. Ankit Garg, how do you stand on customization? What would you say?
I think in the line of business that we are selling furniture online. What we have learned over the couple of years in the last, furniture buying is a very personalized experience for sure. Like, I think you wouldn't like a sofa that you have at your home, and probably your brother also has the same sofa, right? It's like if you have the same guy, nobody has two same cars in the whole home, right? So for us, it's actually a problem that we'll have to solve. But as I said in the beginning, I think it requires a lot of science in terms of designing your product. And I feel, just counter to what Manish said, I feel it's actually doable. But maybe we are seeing that positive signs of being able to do it, because we've got some industry veterans to design things for us. But I think we can't live without this solving the problem of mass customization. I think we will have to make sure that everybody feels that they've got a new choice of sofa for themselves, or let's say a new set of interiors done for themselves. So, I believe this sector of D2C, especially furniture, is a total reflection of what you are, and that's how you would like to kind of choice out your whole entire sort of furniture. So I think it's a problem that we will have to definitely solve in long run.
Pankaj, also, since the challenge is also personalization, some of it also comes from the inputs that you have. Let's say the quality of the inputs in terms of what ultimately goes as finished products. How much of a challenge is that for a smaller brand, a D2C brand?
I think for data to kick in, you need a critical mass. I think otherwise you get into your own localized maximas, right? Because you would not have seen a bigger population set. So, so answering by the customization question for us, it's usually never say never for an entrepreneur is a basic thumb rule, but it's such a complicated category. I'm talking to the core bras as a category. It's such a technical product that you cannot customize for different people. But the way we try to answer it, and this also answers the second question you raised directly to me, is that we started doing smaller batches. We started doing lesser MOQs, lesser minimum order quantities, right? So we could give a bigger plethora of products to the end consumer. So while I was not able to customize something specifically for you, but I had such a huge basket available, and then I gave very interesting tools so we have something which we call the Clover Curve Fit Test, where the fit test will walk you through how your body looks, and basis that it will say, okay, I have handpicked these like 7 products which will fit you perfectly, and your 7 problems will get sorted. So I think that's how probably we are solving it. But to answer your second question, I think the thing is that data will play a role, but critical mass is critical. It's very important. So till the time you have that data available, so that the big data AI starts to kick in, I think you'll have to pick up the phone and call. I couldn't call my end customers because it against my policy. It's all women talking to women. So literally it was like I was sitting next to my customer care team members after day ended, and you said that help me understand more. So I think the hunger has to be there, or more one-on-one conversation till the time the data kicks in, and then technology takes over, and it's way simpler.
Vargham, with the ecosystem maturing, and you would have seen it over the last few years, how do you think the technology solutions could add, should I use the word zing, more zing to the efforts being made by companies?
Yeah, it's much easier. Earlier, let's say if Ankit wanted to start a referral marketing program, a unique one, the following day, because there's a festival or something like that, then he would have to tell his IT team, and then it would be taken up as a project, and it would take like 7 days today from now, or 7 days is a very less time, and probably take a month minimum to launch a product like that, right? But today there are these plug and play systems, technologies that allow you to implement anything, any kind of functionality, without actually investing in building that technology. And that's the power of ecosystem. For instance, Shopify has an app store which has thousands of apps. So if you want to do, let's say, shipping, so Pickrr, which is part of the session today, Pickrr is an app on the Shopify app store. If somebody wants to ship their product to the customer, they can just add the Pickrr plugin and send their shipment, and Pickrr takes care of everything from the time they assign the order to them. Similarly, there are like different plugins for WhatsApp, for referral marketing, for sales, customer support. All of these are softwares that have been built by great individuals from different parts of the world, but you get it all because you're a part of the ecosystem, and you get it at a very cheap price. It's plug and play, it's cheap. So that's how the ecosystem has helped.
Okay. And there are quite a few other issues also to talk about, because this is also about the changing landscape. And let me go back to Manish, because Manish, you spoke this decade going to be the D2C decade for D2C brands and the entrepreneurs who are leading those companies. Anything more to add to that? Because the categories, we're seeing quite a few categories emerge, but quite a bit also to be disrupted for existing businesses.
Could you reframe the question for me?
Yeah. So I'm saying while some of these categories have emerged during the last decade or so, and with more Indians online, you've had that categories add some muscle there, but quite a bit of legacy businesses also waiting to be disrupted?
See, the world's changed, and I think we all must come to terms with that. I think consumer behavior is changing, whether it's legacy or new age brands. I think the shift has happened. I think the winner is going to be adaptability over this decade, and that is going to be a set of companies, individuals who will drive it, right? I think uh, even as a D2C main play consumer company today, we're not only thinking digital, we're also looking at offline, right? But disruption in the West has already happened in our category. 50% of consumption on health and beauty is online in the West. India is still going to have its mom and pop stores and GT, MT, which is going to be here for a long time. I think it's only going to be a generation where you'll see this. So I think it's going to be horses for courses over this decade. But I think it's all about being hybrid and looking at land grab situations for individuals and companies to take it to the next level. So keeping a razor sharp focus, I think that's going to be emerging for the D2C place. And we remember we're the land of the cheapest Coca-Cola, right? So how do you factor that in, plus also look at growth plus disruption? You're trying to disrupt legacy long-term players. I think everybody is concerned about it. Who's going to be swift, agile? I think that's going to be something which is going to be very interesting to see. So I would like to factor this new age and legacy now, but I think this decade is really going to add pressure to both the sides.
Okay, which means perfect competition, Ankit. So there's quite a few points. So there's agility. So you have to keep looking ahead, look at the opportunities, also keep, watching what's coming from behind you, because there's so much disruption. So the disruptors possibly are being disrupted. How are you seeing the emerging situation, Ankit?
I think this is probably taken from the book. But the biggest worry that one of the entrepreneurs should have is another entrepreneur who's probably just thinking. When one of the discussions earlier in the past I was having is this entrepreneurs have got this this power of saying in the beginning of the any venture is that they can't fail, right? So I mean, all of us probably in the beginning when we started, our fathers, mothers, parents, friends, nobody could convince us it was such a stupid idea to sell lingerie. He said, like Pankaj said, that he can't sell lingerie, right? And he can't scale it. My father would say, and when I was getting married, my father-in-law said, like, matters for this that they can't pay. So I think one of the things that I'm trying to convey is entrepreneurship as it booms. I think you'll find your biggest competitors probably coming out for you. Probably they're just the ideas of probably cooking in their minds, and you'll have to really watch out for them. But for us, I think as Manish said very clearly, those who build agility in their thoughts, those who build lean systems, those who are very, very quickly reacting to what is happening in the market, those who are very closely listening to the consumers and probably finding their own niches, who are building strategic things which are going to work out in, let's say, next 10 years. As I answered one of the questions where building an online business for the next 10 years or going omnichannel is a strategic move for you. You have to decide what you have to really build. I think all of this is a very very thoughtful thing that you really need to put in a decent amount of your day's time in kind of thinking very strategically what you're going to build for the next 10 years or 5 years. And very, very watchful of those young entrepreneurs who are probably just thinking about how do we disrupt Wakefit or a Bewakoof.com.
Pankaj, okay, since you mentioned Bewakoof.com, let me go to Prabkiran then. Prabkiran, you've disrupted the market, goes without saying. Is there a fear of disruption for you as well? What are you watching out for?
Yeah, so I think next decade, we have been talking is about D2C brands. I think the other way of looking at this, it is about disruption. What we are going to see is a lot of legacy brands will be disrupted. At the same time, a lot of D2C brands which look promising were in a position of strength. In that journey might already be disrupted by some newer brands which have not yet started. So I think as everyone tries to race to that top, I think this is something that we are going to see very often. We might be declaring a lot of D2C winners also too early. Maybe some of the companies have not even started right now. So definitely, what worked for us was this entire democratization that has happened because of internet being as um, the thing that empowered everyone. But the thing about internet is that it has democratized so well that people who have already done well, now there's power in everyone's hand, right? So we have the same worry, and I think it's as I said, like there is always that funnel where you want to move from just being a brand which is in people's awareness to being a brand which engages people, to finally having people's trust that they come and transact with you, but then being a brand that really connects with people. And I think something that connects, something which is emotional, goes way beyond logic. And that's the thing, like most of the D2C brands will start as niches, as product market fit, which the mainstream brands are not catering to. But eventually everyone will get there. So brands starting as niche are going to get into the market of the legacy players, getting into their core markets, core products, core channels, and the core and the main legacy brands are also going to take notice and fight back. They are going to try to take care of it and try to go to the niches of the market. I think eventually there'll be similarity. Everyone will be focusing on each kind of market, and there is going to be fight. But then anything that goes beyond logic will be emotions, and I think that connect is something that is going to make it the winner at the end of the day. And that is something that that just goes way beyond logic, and that's where that connect is profitability in the long term. So we have named some of the brilliant FMCG brands, which were about great brands like Advisable or Unilever. But I think one thing that they have cracked is they have just gone beyond logic. You can have a same product which might be equal quality, lower price, but the consumer will still not go for it because now it is way beyond logic. So I think that is something that is going to be sustainability in the long term and profit in the long term. And building that connect is something that we are really watching out for.
Pankaj, your thoughts as we close?
I think the quality of hunt will be defined by the intensity of your hunger. I think that's the way to kind of put it, right? I mean, it's a market up for takes. There is land grab opportunity out there. In my category, where we went in 5 years, the nearest guy went there in 13 years. There are a lot of other examples that can be given. I think it's just a function of how hungry you are and what is your end objective, right? I mean, so for us, and is your gratification just revenue? Is the gratification a lot more, right? So our internal, so this promise to the team internally is that in the next 4 years, we have to figure out a way to reach to impact 5 crore women's lives. I think that's the agenda that we have taken, right? And some people will get excited by the fact that, they made an impact at the ground. Others will get excited by the fact that, they created a huge P&L. Others will say their P&L wasn't very good, but look at the bottom line. But I think everybody can decide what their hunger is and what their hunt is, and then go for it. But the beauty of the situation is that it's up for grabs, and complacency is death. I think those are the only two, bottom lines for me. I think otherwise it's your game to play.
Okay, so Bhargav, if I may ask you for the final word, because if you're going to look at, or if entrepreneurs from beyond the 12 cities, they were to look at you and look to multiply, what could it mean for the entrepreneurship scenario in India and the change it could bring about?
Yeah, I think we're looking at an age where entrepreneurship is on a rise more than ever, and companies like Shopify are helping empower this, giving people a platform to start a business easily without a capital investment, sometimes even without a product. You can drop ship products. So it's a great opportunity for even folks who are outside of these 12 cities. All you need is a product and a story, and just design your website on Shopify. If you know how to use email, it shouldn't be difficult at all, and get started. I think there's no more barrier to entry in starting a business like there was in the earlier decades.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us. Just to sum up the bigger points that have been made, this decade for D2C brands, and you see already Manish mentioned about 30,000 of them, and they're growing. And as Varga was mentioning, it could go from the competition, and as others also mentioned, the competition could come from anywhere. It's a great opportunity to reach out to customers across the length and breadth of the country, particularly because starting is becoming easier. We didn't get into the details of the kind of capital that could be required. That has come down significantly if you were to look to start a D2C brand. There could also be entrepreneurs who are from smaller towns, and these are the entrepreneurs who could be the next ones who could disrupt the market. So could the disruptors be disrupted? Well, there is a real chance of that as well. And of course, the larger point of democratization of entrepreneurship and the opportunity that there is for everyone to be part of this action that is unfolding in the country. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being with us. And it's been wonderful speaking to you and listening to you as we went about talking about D2C brands and what could be some of those success mantras. Wonderful having you on the Economic Times as well. Thanks for being with us and talking about the wonderful D2C story.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.